Good afternoon, boys and girls, students. This is Professor Ed Lyon, and welcome to TaxCoach 101, our new member orientation. It's a gorgeous day on the quad, as you can see. The rare example of a three-story New England chapel at Hamilton College in bucolic Clinton, New York, is the setting for our universe today. And welcome to TCU 101. Today we're going to walk through the TaxCoach system. We're going to start by talking about what it is and what it is not. We're going to talk about how you can use TaxCoach in your business and walk through some of the essential elements of the TaxCoach philosophy. We're going to talk a little bit about advanced TaxCoach programs, and finally I'm going to leave you with some homework to get started on your journey as a proactive tax planner. Let's start by talking a little bit about TaxCoach and what it is. You may have signed up for TaxCoach thinking it is a proactive tax planning software. And it is, but there really is so much more to TaxCoach than just the software. We look at TaxCoach as a three-legged stool, and the software is just part of one leg. So, the first leg is the tax strategy leg. That includes the tax planning software, the tax presentation tools, various instructional webinars on tax and technical topics, and this series of TaxCoach University classes designed to help you become a more effective TaxCoach user. The second stool is the marketing support, and that begins with the value-based philosophy that we're going to discuss on this call. It also includes marketing seminar presentations, marketing templates, and for those of you who are interested in advanced programs, weekly client emails and one-on-one personal coaching. Finally, the third leg of the TaxCoach stool is the TaxCoach community. That includes primarily our weekly member call-in on Wednesdays, the weekly TaxCoach briefs, the lineup mailed publication, and TaxCoach live meetings held throughout the year. So let's talk. What is TaxCoach? Well, as you can see, TaxCoach really is a system for integrating tax planning into your business. It's not just tax planning software. TaxCoach gives you a tangible deliverable to demonstrate your commitment to saving your clients' taxes. And that contrasts to what TaxCoach is not, what you're probably doing right now, which is verbal ad hoc advice and counseling. It's very easy to give a client an idea to save money on taxes. You probably do it every day. But are you doing real tax planning? I'm going to argue that you're not, because in most cases, that advice goes in one ear and out the other. When I look at the tax planning process, I see it as much like what happens when you go to the doctor. There are three things that are going to happen. First, the doctor is going to diagnose the problem. Then the doctor is going to prescribe the solution. Finally, somebody is going to fill that prescription. It may mean going to the pharmacy. It may mean surgery. It may mean physical therapy, but nothing happens until somebody fills that prescription. Well, they are much likelier to fill that prescription and implement your recommendations if you give the client a tangible deliverable that demonstrates your commitment. When you give somebody verbal ad hoc advice, you're giving them a prescription, but it's a verbal prescription, and you're not getting paid for it. What's verbal advice worth? Well, it's worth the paper it's printed on. What is free advice worth? You already know. It's what you pay for it. So TaxCoach at its core gives you a tangible deliverable to demonstrate your commitment to saving your clients' taxes. TaxCoach is built around plain English concepts and strategies, not spreadsheets. It's very easy to find tax projection software. You probably have some sort of tax projection capability built into your tax prep software. But clients really aren't nearly as interested in seeing what their bill is going to be down the road. What they really want are ideas, concepts and strategies that they can put into place, or that you can help them put into place to help them save money. And that's why we call it plain English tax planning that gives clients what they really want. So a TaxCoach report does not include page after page of spreadsheets and projections. Clients aren't going to get much out of that anyway. You might feel comfortable with it. Your clients won't. TaxCoach gives you a plain English narrative. And I'm going to tell you up front that it's going to start to look like boilerplate to you very quickly because you'll see multiple plans. But it will not look like boilerplate to your client. So TaxCoach is built on plain English concepts and strategies, not spreadsheets. TaxCoach is all about easy data entry for new clients. And that means that the system is not tied to previous tax returns. You can create a new TaxCoach plan for a client long before you ever do a tax return for them. You don't need their actual tax return in front of you to do a plan. So it's not like one of those systems that imports all of the numbers from a previous tax return. You don't even need to have access to a previous tax return to do a plan. That makes TaxCoach wonderfully useful for planning with new clients before you've done a return. TaxCoach does give you ballpark savings estimates for the strategies that you propose. However, TaxCoach does not give you falsely precise estimates or even totals. And there's a good, valid reason for doing this. One, circumstances change over time. And if you do a plan for a client in June based on a pro forma of their income and expenses for the year, it's pretty likely that things are going to change over the rest of the year, and those numbers may not hold up to be true. You don't want to tie yourself to a projection you make in June before you see the numbers. Second, ballpark savings estimates avoid you tying yourself down with precise estimates that may not come true. So if you do a projection and you show a client that he's going to save $8,200 in taxes with the plan, and circumstances change, and at the end of the year you do their taxes and it turns out that they saved $7,900, there's a word for you, and that word is hero. You've done a great job for that client. You've saved them $7,900 in taxes they don't have to pay. But if that client is thinking, wait a minute, you told me $8,200, now you're going to look like a goat, not a hero. Finally, we don't want to give precise totals of all the savings of all the strategies, because in most cases clients aren't going to implement every strategy that you present for various reasons. A client may decide not to implement an S corporation because they think their income is going to go down over the next couple of years. They may decide not to do an education assistance plan because their college-age child isn't going to be in the United States. They'd rather spend a summer program abroad. Life gets in the way, and you don't want to tie yourself down to falsely precise savings estimates or totals. So TaxCoach doesn't give you that rope to hang yourself with. Finally, it's worth saying that TaxCoach is really more like a GPS that gets you to the house than it is an actual blueprint for building the house. TaxCoach will let you present dozens of concepts and strategies that you can use to help save your clients money on taxes. Ultimately, though, and we're going to talk about this in more detail, you're going to be the one who implements those savings for the client, and we want the client to see you as the one who's being responsible for those savings. Looks like we've got a couple of questions already from members on the presentation, and if you do have a question, please feel free to ask it. First question, who is TaxCoach's target market? Is it tax preparers, or is it for financial advisors that don't fill out tax returns but are interested in helping their clients reduce their tax exposure? The answer is it is for both markets. However, the largest market is tax professionals, primarily CPAs and enrolled agents, but also some unenrolled tax preparers who want to distinguish themselves from their competition by offering proactive tax planning in addition to simple tax preparation. Having said that, I would guess that around 40% of TaxCoach's members offer financial advisory services of some sort, and probably 15 or 20% do not prepare tax returns for their clients. They are financial advisors, again, using TaxCoach to distinguish themselves from their competition. Is the presentation available for download? We will be recording this class and we will post it in the TaxCoach University section of TaxCoach. I will go ahead and have the PowerPoint uploaded for those of you who are interested in downloading it. All right. Here's the magic question. And if you take nothing else away from this class, let it be this. This is a great way to grow your business. TaxCoach grew out of a planning system that I created for my own personal service practice that I called Instant Tax Relief. But I started asking people this question, and it was so successful that it became my go-to question, my magic question. And it's very simple. Ask somebody you're talking to. Ask your prospective client, ask a colleague at a networking event, ask a professional colleague, when was the last time your tax guy came to you and said, here's an idea I think will save you money? Question is that simple. The answer will almost always be never. And with that question, you have immediately driven a wedge between your listener and their current tax professional. We all like to believe that our tax professional takes care of their taxes. Many of you have heard of Sandy Botkin, who is a national lecturer on tax planning, head of the Tax Reduction Institute, and he says the 7 most expensive words in the English language are, my accountant takes care of my taxes. Well, the fact is most accountants do no such thing. Most accountants do a very good job putting the right numbers in the right boxes on the right forms and getting them filed by the right deadlines. But then they call it a day. That's like driving a car using just the rear view mirror. They're recording history, but they aren't doing anything proactively to help clients write new history. This magic question gets right to the heart of that. When was the last time your tax guy came to you and said, here's an idea I think will save you money? If you ask this question once a day to somebody new, you will be amazed how quickly it starts to grow your business. So let's talk a little bit about the TaxCoach philosophy and how you use the magic question and how you use tax planning to grow your business. The first most important point is you have got to be different from your competition. That's not easy. Most people don't really understand what it is that you do. Even a straight 1040 client thinks, you fill out tax forms. They don't understand everything that goes into it. They don't understand the responsibilities. They don't understand where talent makes a difference, where a little bit of digging and a little bit of homework make a difference. So here's the problem. If your client thinks that you and the CPA across the street and the EA around the corner and the H&R Block office across town all do the same thing, you're stuck. If your client perceives that you and the CPA across the street and the EA around the corner and the H&R Block office across town all deliver the same value, you're in real trouble, because now you're a commodity. You're just an apple in a big bushel of undistinguished apples. And there are plenty of other apples out there who can prepare tax returns. Not only that, but you are subject to damaging apples to apples comparisons, like, what are your office hours? And will you do my return on the spot while I wait? Or how quickly can you turn around returns? Or the question you really don't want to face, how come I got to pay you $50 more for my Schedule C than the guy down the street? You do not want to be subject to apples and apples comparisons. Your goal is to be different. Your goal is to be an orange. Because if you can position yourself as the orange in an apples to orange comparison, you get a leg up over that competition. In fact, you eliminate that competition. And that is your real goal, is to be so different, so distinctive, that you can present yourself as a category of one. And if you are the only woman in town who works the tax magic that you do with her clients, then those apples to apples comparisons don't matter. It doesn't matter what the competition charges, because they aren't really competition. There's a great quote from the poet and playwright Tennessee Williams that illustrates this point. Tennessee Williams once said, "There are only 3 cities in America: New York, San Francisco, and New Orleans. Every place else is just Cleveland." And folks, you do not want to be just Cleveland. It's real hard to succeed if you are just Cleveland. You've got to distinguish yourself. You've got to be different. You've got to give your client something that they will perceive is more valuable. And here at TaxCoach, we give you tax planning, a written, plain English, tangible, proactive plan. That's your orange. That's what makes you different. That's what sets you apart. Second point, you got to stop giving it away. Way too many of us give away thousands of dollars of free tax planning advice all the time. And if you're giving it away, A, how valuable is your client going to think it is? And B, how much can you charge for it? Got to stop giving it away. So let me tell you a story to illustrate that point. Years ago, when we were first launching TaxCoach, I had an appointment with a prospective client. Michael was his name. Michael cut my partner Keith's hair and owned the salon where he cut hair. And at one point he was cutting Keith's hair and mentioned to Keith, "Aren't you doing something with taxes, some new business with taxes? I'm wondering if I'm paying too much tax." So Keith set up the appointment, and Michael and I agreed to meet one morning at Starbucks. I told Michael to bring his business and personal tax returns. Michael and I sat down over our coffee and exchanged our pleasantries, shook hands, talked for a little bit, and I said, "Let's see what you got." The first thing I looked at was Michael's business return. His salon was organized as a C corporation. I saw that Michael had paid himself a salary of $96,000 for the previous year. I saw that the corporation had a $3,000 loss for the year, and I saw that there was a cumulative net operating loss of $35,000. So I asked Michael a couple questions. I said, "First, how do you decide how much to pay yourself?" And he said, "Well, we pay a regular salary throughout the year, and at the end of the year, my accountant sits down and looks at the books and figures out how much to bonus to zero out the profit so I don't pay any corporate level tax." Of course, I knew this was going to be the answer. And my second question was, if you had to hire somebody to replace yourself as manager of the salon, how much would you have to pay that person? And the answer was about $45,000 to $50,000 a year. So, those of you on this webinar probably know where I'm going with this. First strategy: drop Michael's salary for the current year. Let the profit be soaked up by the net operating loss, and dividend out the remaining cash at 15% instead of salary taxable at 25% plus FICA. Nice big savings there. Second strategy would be to either convert the C corporation to an S corporation or set up an S corporation to run parallel with the C corporation to pay a reasonable salary in the $45,000 to $50,000 range, and take the remaining $45,000 or $50,000 out as a K-1 distribution, not subject to employment tax. Not real rocket science. Here's the difference. Most accountants would go ahead and tell Michael exactly that. They'd say, oh, well, here's what's going on. You're overpaying yourself and you're creating a net operating loss and it's locked up in the corporation and you can't use it. And here's how we unlock that net operating loss this year. And hey, you've got to pay yourself a salary to get everything out of the corporation. We can do something called an S corporation and you don't have to pay FICA on the part that doesn't come out of salary, blah, 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 blah. Well, what would you have done? You know what you would have done? You would have just given away thousands of dollars worth of savings for free. One, you would have made it look too easy. Two, you would have given Michael all the information that he would have needed, had he chosen, to go back to his current CPA and say, hey, I heard about this thing called a net operating loss. Blah, blah, blah. Can I use that? And I heard about this thing called an S corporation. And his CPA probably would have said, sure, we can do both of those. Yeah, I'll go ahead and implement those and I'll charge you $2,000 more to implement them. And you wouldn't have gotten paid for your planning advice and you wouldn't have gotten paid to implement it. So I did not tell Michael about the C corporation net operating loss, and I did not tell Michael about the S corporation. I spent another 20 minutes reviewing the corporate return, reviewing the personal return, asking about some specific financial goals. And at the end of that information gathering, I looked at him and I said, based on the information you've given me, over the next 5 years, you're going to pay about $35,000 in taxes that you don't need to pay. And he looked stunned. He said, wow, I thought I might be paying too much tax, but I had no idea it was that much. What do we do about it? And I said, well, the first step is a plan. When you opened your salon, did you have a business plan? And he said, yeah, actually, I went to college and majored in finance before I went to haircutting school to learn how to cut hair because I knew I was going to want to open my own business. I said, great. So you know what a business plan is. We're going to do a tax plan. And the tax plan is going to illustrate all of the various strategies and things we can do. And the fee for the tax plan will be, and frankly, I'm embarrassed how low that fee was, so I'm not even going to repeat it on this call. But the point is, he wrote me a check on the spot, and I deposited it in my bank account before I even got to the office that morning. Most accountants would have given away thousands of dollars worth of free tax planning advice in that initial appointment with no guarantee they would ever see the prospect again. I didn't give it away. I got paid up front for a plan that I would deliver to save a heck of a lot of money. And that really is important. If you think about it, if you want to get yourself depressed, think about all the times that you have given away valuable free tax planning information and not gotten paid for it. I've had TaxCoach members tell me that they could finance a car or a boat or a house or even a retirement with the tax planning fees that they have given away in the form of free advice. Here's the real irony. Your clients don't even value it. How many times have you given a client free tax planning advice and literally watched it go in one ear and come out the other? We have a TaxCoach member here in Ohio who tells a great story about working with a client and the value of free advice. The client was a roofing contractor operating his business as a sole proprietorship and making some pretty good money, over 6 figures, naturally paying self-employment tax on that entire amount. Our TaxCoach member delivered out his 1040 one year and said, "Hey, you've outgrown your sole proprietorship. You ought to be an S corporation." Explained what an S corporation is, how it works, how you set it up, how you maintain it, how it saves money, and even how much money it would save the client. And the client loved it. Client said, "That's awesome. I'm going to go out and get an S corporation." Well, the client comes back next year for his 1040. And do you think the client had an S corporation? No, of course not. So what did our TaxCoach member do? He sold the client a tax plan for $1,200. And what do you think the tax plan told him to do? If you guessed, set up an S corporation, give yourself a gold star. Same advice that he had given the client for free the year before. What was the difference? This time, the client was invested in it to the tune of $1,200. This time, the client had a tangible written plan. This time, he set up the S corporation and he got the tax savings that our member had promised in the first place. It made a difference. Ultimately, here's the real problem. I think that most of us spend so much time working in our businesses, doing our day-to-day work, and we forget how valuable it really is. If you're like a lot of TaxCoach members, you're creating savings like this all the time. But you do it all the time, so you forget how valuable it is. And you start to take your value for granted. That's a huge, huge mistake. If you just sit down to reflect on how valuable you really are, how much money you can really save your clients, you'll realize that you deserve some pretty chunky planning fees for all the good work you do for your clients. And then your next challenge, which is a lot of fun, is to communicate your value to your clients, because clients come to you for the numbers. How the heck are they going to know how valuable you are if you don't tell them? You got to quantify your value first, and that's not that difficult. We have an exercise in the marketing template section of TaxCoach called the quantifier. Look for it after this webinar. It'll give you a chance to sit down, pick out a few clients, think back on all the things that you may have recommended to those clients, and quantify exactly how much your work has been worth. I guarantee you, you will be amazed at how much you're worth for your clients. I guarantee you, you have no idea how valuable you really are. It will be the most powerful single thing you can ever do for your self-confidence in business, to quantify your value. I know that sounds like hype and hyperbole, but it's true. You quantify your value, you will be amazed, you will see just how valuable you are worth, and then you communicate your value to your clients. Lots of ways you can do it. The simplest way to do it is to just tell the client, hey, we implemented this strategy that I suggested and I saved you X thousands of dollars. What I used to do with a lot of clients is after I prepared their tax return for the year, I would save an extra copy of their return in my software, and I would back out the changes from the strategies that I had recommended. So if I had recommended a medical expense reimbursement plan, I would take those deductions and move them from the Schedule C back to the Schedule A. If I recommended an S corporation, I would back out the W-2 and the K-1, combine both numbers and drop them in a Schedule C so the client could see how much they would have paid in self-employment tax. Then when I was done with that, I would have a complete accurate dummy return showing them what their tax bill would have been without my changes. When you put it in black and white like that, it amazes clients to see the difference. So I could hand a client a completed 1040 and say, look, you're getting a $3,000 refund. Let me show you what it would have looked like if we hadn't done these changes. You'd have written a $4,000 check. That's powerful. The most impressive example of this in my history was working with a real estate agent client here in Cincinnati. We set up an LLC to minimize employment tax. And I'd been working with her, I think, 3 years. She started talking about her daughter's wedding. Her daughter was about to graduate from college, get married to her boyfriend. They were planning the wedding. It was going to be a wonderful ceremony, and it was a lot of work. Well, the next year, when I delivered out the client's return, I got to hear about the wedding, and apparently it was a wonderful wedding. And I got an idea in the back of my head. So I asked the client, how much did the wedding cost? One of the things about being in the tax business is that you get to ask clients all sorts of nosy questions about their money, and they will answer. My client said about $30,000. And I did some quick thinking in the back of my head. And I said to her, did you realize that in the last 4 years, my LLC saved you enough in tax to pay for your daughter's wedding? I'll tell you what, you should have seen the look on my client's face when I told her that my planning saved her enough money to pay for her daughter's wedding. There's a lot of advanced sales and marketing psychology in there, and we talk about it more in Advanced Tax Coach University classes. But let me tell you, if you want to guarantee that a client will never leave your service, save them enough money to pay for their daughter's wedding, and you will accomplish exactly that. So that is the key. And TaxCoach helps you create the value in the first place. Then the marketing part of TaxCoach will help you quantify that value and communicate that value. The community part of TaxCoach will help you share your success stories with over 500 TaxCoach members across the country. So you want to be different. You want to quit giving it away. You want to communicate your value to your clients. Finally, I want you to understand that you are the value, not the plan. We don't want the client to perceive the value as coming from the plan itself. We want the client to perceive the value as coming from your delivery of the plan. That's important enough that I'm going to repeat it, even though it's right there on the slide in front of you. We don't want the client to perceive the value as coming from the plan itself. We want the client to perceive the value as coming from your delivery of the plan. See, here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit down with a client and a plan, And there are going to be 3 or 4 main strategies the client can use to save money. Maybe it's an S corporation, maybe it's a medical expense reimbursement plan, maybe it's hiring the kids, and maybe the 4th is a cost segregation study. So you're going to open the plan to the page on S corporations, and you're going to walk through that strategy, and you're going to spend 20 minutes explaining it. And then when the client says, yeah, I think I get it, you're going to say, don't worry, I'm going to implement it all for you. Then you're going to turn to the page on the medical expense reimbursement plan, and you're going to spend 10 minutes walking through that. And the client's going to say, yeah, that sounds terrific. And you're going to say, terrific, I'm going to help you keep the right records to implement it. You're going to walk through hiring the kids. You're going to explain what a cost segregation study is and how it works. And after 45 minutes of tax planning, your client's going to say, I've had enough. And they're going to close up the plan, and they're going to look at you, and they're going to say, this is great. I'm going to take this home, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to call you with any questions. And here's what's going to happen, and don't be disappointed. They're going to take the plan home, and they're going to put it on the planning desk in the kitchen between the refrigerator and the pantry. And it's going to sit there for a couple of days, and the spouse is going to come home and drop off an envelope with employee benefits information on top. And then the kids are going to come home and drop some summer camp forms and some report cards and some school artwork on it. And then a catalog or 2 is going to come in, and it's going to end up on top of the pile. And a month after you deliver out the plan, client wouldn't be able to find the plan if the house was on fire. And someday, for some reason, they're going to think about taxes. And they're going to think, oh, I've got that plan down. I could go down and look it up in the plan. Yeah, I'm not sure where the plan is, but you know what? It doesn't matter. I've got somebody taking care of it for me. We don't want the client to think the value comes from that plan sitting in a 3-ring binder at the bottom of a stack of papers in the kitchen somewhere. That doesn't reflect all that well on you. We want the client to perceive the value as coming from their relationship with you and with your firm. Ultimately, you're in the business of relationships. The TaxCoach plan is a tool to make the benefit of that relationship real and tangible for the client. We really don't care if the client ever reads the plan or not. And they probably won't. And that's fine. They don't need to read the plan for the plan to accomplish its goal. They just need to see that they've got you. All right, I want to talk a couple minutes about TaxCoach Advanced Programs for those of you who like this idea and want more. The first is the TaxCoach All-Stars program, which involves one-on-one coaching and consulting. We do a tremendous job of making information available on the web and through our Wednesday member call-ins. It's a chance for you to listen to a conversation for an hour on Wednesday, ask your own questions, and get answers, not just from me, but from 60 or 80 other people in the TaxCoach community who are on that call. You can even brag about yourself a little bit if you like. We love success stories. But if you're interested in more depth and one-on-one help, the All-Stars provides one-on-one coaching and consulting for whatever business challenges you're trying to overcome. And for more information, you can go to taxcoachallstars.com. The second advanced program for those of you who are interested in automated marketing is the TaxCoach Wire Service. It is a series of done-for-you weekly emails that we send out to your clients and prospects. How are we different from other newsletters and email services? The big difference is we are not boring. You may have a newsletter built into your website, for example, and every month it sends out an email talking about the new developments in depreciation or Section 179 limits or the new safe harbor home office deduction. Well, Yeah, that's valuable information, but it's not interesting. In fact, it's downright boring. Clients and prospects expect you to send something like that, but it doesn't really do anything for them. So the tax coach emails are entertaining. They're designed to get opened and get read. They are stories. They're usually entertaining. They're usually pretty funny. Some of them are on topics in the news. For example, a golfer who gets caught up in an insider trading scandal and whether he can deduct the gains that he has to disgorge, paying them back. Sometimes they're off the wall topics. For Dr. Seuss's birthday, we did a Dr. Seuss themed email talking about taxes written in the rhyming style of green eggs and ham. We did a wonderfully fun wire service email on tax consequences of the zombie apocalypse. You might not think that taxes are a concern in a zombie apocalypse, but the estate tax is based on dying. If you're zombified, does that count as death for purposes of the estate tax? If your spouse is zombified, can you continue to file jointly? The point here is they're fun. They get opened and they get read. We know from ConstantContact.com what the average open rate is for accountant emails. The TaxCoach wire service open rate is more than double the average rate. And TaxCoach wire service emails keep you in front of your prospects and your clients on a weekly favorable basis. Lots of success stories for TaxCoach wire service, and if you want to read them, you can go to TaxCoachWireService.com. All right. I want to finish up by giving you some homework, and then I'll be happy to address any questions. The first piece of homework is to walk through at least the 100 level series of TaxCoach University classes, whether you make time for the live class or you schedule your own time for a playback on the TaxCoach website. TCU 102 walks you through how to prepare a plan. TCU 103 walks you step by step through a system for selling tax plans to new clients and existing clients. TCU 104 walks you through a role play of actually selling a tax plan. You'll see the strategies, the techniques, and the psychology that will help you close more plan sales. TCU 105 walks you through the savings estimate feature. Next, I want you to join a Wednesday member call-in as soon as possible. If you haven't, join your first. If you've joined your first, you've already seen what goes on in those calls. Continue attending as many Wednesday member call-ins as you can. We've had more members than I can count tell us that the Wednesday member call-in is a standing appointment on their calendar that they won't miss, and that the Wednesday call-in alone justifies the price of their TaxCoach membership. As a new TaxCoach member, you are automatically signed up for those Wednesday calls, and you will get reminder emails from GoToWebinar. If for some reason you don't get a reminder call from GoToWebinar, the calls are Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. You can log into TaxCoachSystem.com, log into the system, and on the home page you will see a link that lets you join into the current call-in process. Finally, I want you to pick 3 clients as guinea pigs to do tax plans. You don't even have to charge. Identify 3 good clients. Make the offer. Pick up the phone, call them, and tell them, I've got something that I think will save you money. Your clients will take the call. They'll love to hear from you. They really will. You don't have to charge for these guinea pig plans, but I want you to at least establish a value. Make up a number. Tell the client This is a new service I'm adding to my business. The regular fee is going to be $1,200, or the regular fee is going to be $2,500. But because you're a good client, I'm going to waive that fee. And it's important that you establish a fee and waive it, rather than just giving it away for free. Because if you establish a fee and waive it, the client will think that it's worth whatever fee you quoted. If you just give it away, they'll think it's free. So establish a value, do the plan, present some ideas to them, and have fun. Your clients will be rooting for you to succeed. They will not be skeptical. They will love to see that you can save them money. And when you're done, quantify the value, communicate the value, and ask for referrals. If you need help asking for referrals, we have a class on doubling your referrals. It's in the TaxCoach University section of TaxCoach, and it will help you with that. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me for that portion of the call. I'm going to go ahead and take your questions, and you are welcome to submit questions using GoToWebinar. First question really applies more to my own personal service practice. How were you able to sell tax plans as an attorney? Well, I did it the same way you would do it as a CPA or an enrolled agent. In other words, how did you represent your credentials and what is your professional background? Well, I am an attorney, and I am a former tax attorney. I have written and edited tax-oriented publications. I'm an author of tax books. By the way, the single most effective way you can build your business is to become an author. And if you're interested in finding out just how easy it can be to become an author, go to TaxCoachBookLicense.com. But I represented myself as having expertise, and more important, I represented myself as having a proactive attitude towards tax savings. A proactive approach to doing more than just recording history and looking forward to find ways to save the client's money. Does the TaxCoach plan give me the strategies like you just mentioned? Yes, it does. Sit through the TCU 102 class on how to prepare a plan, and you will see exactly how TaxCoach suggests the right strategies for the right clients and what you can do that. Is there a way for us to get support with our first tax plan with a client? Absolutely, there is. I would suggest you join us on one of our TCU 999 calls, which is the case study and technical question and answer call. You can actually present a redacted tax return for us to walk through on the call if that's what you'd like. Alternatively, you can present us with the scenario, the fact pattern, and we can walk you through the specifics of the tax plan. That's on the TCU 999 calls, which we present on the last Tuesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. If that's not going to be soon enough, we also take time at the end of the regular Wednesday call-ins to take technical questions and discuss specific fact patterns with you then. How do you save self-employment tax using an LLC? I thought you saved this using the S corporation. This gets back to the story of the real estate agent that I had worked with. What we did in her case was we set up a multi-member LLC with her and her husband and elected to be taxed as a partnership. The husband did not materially participate in the business, so his flow-through portion of the income was treated as a limited partnership interest and not subject to self-employment tax. How do I join the Wednesday weekly member call-in? What is the phone number, etc.? As I mentioned earlier, that information is emailed to you every week. You get a link that you can click on with GoToWebinar. You can join by phone or you can join on your computer. How do you get more referrals? Great question. First step is to go to the TaxCoach University section of TaxCoach and review the course on how to double your referrals this tax season. All right, here's a terrific question. It seems as if most of your strategies, S corporation, income allocation, etc., are geared more toward the self-employed versus the W-2 type earner. Do you promote strategies targeted to high-income W-2 wage earners? Yes, we do, particularly in the areas of charitable giving. However, the reality is that most of the best tax coach strategies and most of the best tax planning strategies are for self-employed individuals, business owners, real estate investors, and securities investors who are managing a taxable portfolio. Those are the real sweet spot target clientele for tax planning services. Most tax coach members end up focusing their efforts on business owners. Those who are primarily financial advisors use TaxCoach to increase their number of business owner clients and also to work with retirees who are planning their retirement income. So, terrific question. And yes, the answer is that most of the strategies are primarily directed towards self-employed people just because that's where the action is on tax planning. All right. CGAs, somebody asks. I'm not sure what that acronym refers to. CGAs. Let me know what you mean. All right, a member says, I missed most of the call due to a telephone call. Never fear, this class is being recorded and you can go into the TaxCoach University section of the TaxCoach website and you will be able to hear a playback of this very call. In fact, you can hear playbacks of all of the TaxCoach University calls. You don't need to attend them live, although we find that it's easier for people to actually schedule time when it is a scheduled event. And of course, if you want to be able to ask questions live on the call. The CGA is charitable gift annuities. Yes, we have several modules on various charitable strategies, charitable gift annuities, charitable trusts. That includes remainder trusts, lead trusts. We have information available on various charitable strategies for selling assets and minimizing capital gains tax on the sale of an asset as well. All right, looks like that is it. Okay, final question, a specific place to look for your real estate investor strategies. I'm going to send you to the seminar kits section of TaxCoach. We have 4 big seminar kits, 4 main seminar kits for business owners, real estate investors, retirees, and securities investors. And you'll see a seminar presentation called the 10 Most Expensive Tax Planning Mistakes That Cost Real Estate Investors Thousands. You'll see the slide presentation plus a script and handouts to give to your audience that walk through those strategies. If you're interested in giving seminar presentations, I highly recommend the TCU 202 class on seminars that sell. All right, thanks so much, everyone. I appreciate your time, I appreciate your interest, and I appreciate your membership in TaxCoach. Look forward to seeing you on the Wednesday member call-ins and at a live TaxCoach event coming to you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.